I'm going to quickly go over the specs on this particular gun, the way it's set up. This gun is 25 caliber, has 18-inch barrel, 4.5-inch suppressor on it, like 4 baffles in there. It's got the microlight kit with the side action, 13 cubic inch tank, high flow valve. Has recently made this butt plate similar to what Adam Visual over on Talon Forum makes. You can also get these from Tony at Talon Tunes. Now, the main thing that we want to acquire in a tune on these guns to get a good accurate tune is going to be a nice measured amount of air behind that pellet each and every time. Alright, now of all the things that contribute to that measured amount of air, the most important and most influential by far is the space or the gap between the back of this top hat and the top of the valve head. Alright, now that gap needs to be kept to a minimum. A common mistake is making that gap too big. Alright, too large a gap, it's going to give you a lot of excess air. It's going to increase your feet per second, no question, but at the sacrifice of accuracy, which you don't want. I've got this valve tore apart a little bit here, give you a visual on what goes on with that. This is the top hat, of course, top of the valve head, the little brass bonnet, and your valve seal. This gets activated, cracks that valve seal, the air moves up and through and out, launches your pellet. Okay, what you're after is a nice quick valve dwell time, open and close really quickly. Okay, alright, that's what you're after. Now, the thing that influences that measured amount of air that we're after, secondly in importance to the gap, is the hammer itself. Okay, now the hammer needs to be of sufficient weight to open this valve. Okay, in my opinion, you at the very minimal, even on a Talon with the smaller valve, I think you need either a bigger valve, a bigger, larger hammer, or the stock hammer with the extra hammer weight in order to open up this valve consistently each and every time. Okay, because you don't want to tap this thing. You know, you don't want to tap it too light to not open it up. And plus, on the smaller Talon valve, the valve return spring is crazy heavy on that thing too. Alright, so the hammer, one of the other things I want to mention is the hammer bounce. We mentioned that in the other video too. You want to keep hammer bounce to a minimum, and I'm going to show you how to set that up in a moment, as well as measure this top hat gap in here. Now, one of the other things that I want to talk about, I mentioned before, is the clipping. Okay, clipping can be obvious, or it can be a very subtle thing. Clipping, you can of course take remove baffles, like the sound lock baffles especially, come out. You can see if the pellet's scoring those, but sometimes it may be grazing those things, you know, to where it's not, you know, it's not evident that that's what's going on. The best way to check for clipping, or to prevent clipping, maybe I should say, is to take your tank, take your power source off of the gun, and find a like a light or a white piece of paper, or the sky is even better, and look down the barrel of this thing. Okay, I don't know if I can get this situated or not, but look down the barrel of it, and to where you can see through the barrel and through the shroud. And if you see any kind of shadowing, if you see anything except for rifling, when you got a straight pier down that barrel, see any kind of shadowing, then you have the potential for clipping. Alright, and you need to do whatever you have to do to adjust for that. If it's a add-on shroud like this one, you can rotate it You can scotch it, shim it, do whatever you have to do. You have a little bit of adjustment too with the mounting screws that mounts the barrel too. Will shift things around a little bit for you, but it's worth the extra time to make sure that you have a clean pass through, because you can drive yourself loony. You can shoot hundreds of pellets. It's not going to do you a bloody bit of good if you have any clipping at all going on through here. Okay. Now back to the gap on the top hat real quick. We're going to measure this one. Memory serves, I think this is coming in at like 0.80 or so, thereabouts. All right. Okay, yeah. And if you do millimeters, like 2 millimeters. Okay. Now, as far as minimizing hammer bounce, the way I like to start out on these is to adjust the power wheel and the preload on it to where whenever the gun is relaxed, okay, to where it is barely touching the face of the collar here. All right. And whenever you do that, you're not going to have a whole lot of preload on it. If you need more preload, it would be better to have a longer hammer in here, okay, to give you your preload on your spring. And even if you have to go to like a 3.5 inch hammer spring instead of the 4-inch stock that comes with it, where you have more adjustability, it would be better than having excessive preload on this thing to where it is going to push on this top hat to the point to where it's going to encourage that hammer bounce that we're trying to avoid. Okay, we want that hammer to hit and we want it to stop. All right, and to where we don't get that excess extra blast of air. Now, if you do those things, if you focus on that valve dwell time, quick valve dwell time, try to minimize your hammer bounce. Again, make sure you have sufficient weight on your hammer to open up the valve consistently. Check for clipping, okay? And the last thing I want to go over is the correct way to hold the gun. Okay, now these guns are hold sensitive, as you might have read before, and I've experimented with a lot of different ways to hold these guns, and the simplest way that I can tell you to hold the gun properly to where you're going to get good consistent shooting is to simply emphasize your grip. Okay, I've heard about people doing light grips. I'm telling you what works for me. Okay, now you want to minimize the contact with your shoulder back here. You want to minimize the contact up here even, you know, the light contact, but you can grip this sucker like you're going to choke it to death. Okay, that is not going to hurt your accuracy at all. Engaging this rear too firmly or this front too firmly, that is going to mess your accuracy up. So a firm grip, okay, a light trigger finger, and I found that if you turn this in towards your cheek, just a little bit of contact, that gives you a nice solid anchor, and you can get some nice crisp shots off. And it's going to produce some good results for you. I'm confident of that. Now, a couple of other things to wrap up with is consistency. Okay, you need to find ammo that works in this. I've recommended before the JSB Exact Kings. Whatever pellet that you tune this gun for, shoot that pellet and that pellet only. Okay, all right. Also, in the name of consistency, so to speak, fill pressure. All right, find a fill pressure where that first usable shot is. Do not fill over it. Okay, always fill to that same point each and every time. All right, if you do that and minimize your valve dwell time and check for the clipping, good hold, I'm confident you're going to get good results. So that's what I have for you today. I hope it helps, and as usual, if you have any comments or questions, just let me know. Thanks for watching. many shots is that, Jess?
I have no idea. I'm going to keep track.
Do 4 more.
Okay. Looks like you're doing a pretty good job.
25 yards, I should do, right?
Yeah. Hey, I was going to tell you to put it at the top of the screen, but I didn't realize you had it wrote on the paper. Never mind then.
This is 3, right? Thought that was a crow, but it's a woodpecker. We'll spare him.
Where?